Is it possible to brainwash your kids? Either on purpose, because you're trying to mold them into who you want them to be, or unintentionally, without even realizing it. Could you be brainwashing your kids? What is brainwashing? Brainwashing is a method of indoctrination that changes attitudes and beliefs through pain, medication, stress, repetition, and confusion. A lot of the same methods used for brainwashing are the same methods used for parenting. How about repetition? Repetition is the key to learning, and we tell our kids the same things over and over and over. I have a rule in my house: if it's not yours, don't touch. I tell my kids that all the time. But there's also some negative things that we could potentially tell our kids. You're an idiot.
Are you stupid?
What is wrong with you?
You'll never amount to
You're a
anything.
liar.
You're a brat.
And that has a lasting effect too. How about medications? How many kids are put on medications for behavioral issues, and instead of allowing them to be a kid and push their boundaries and have a sense of adventure, we want them to sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. And if you don't, I'm gonna give you drugs to straighten you out. What about pain? How many parents, their first course of action in correcting their kids is inflicting some kind of a pain, whether it's spanking or a slap in the mouth, even emotional pain like yelling and screaming at them? And fear. How many kids are looking over their shoulder because they didn't mean to, they don't even know what they did, but they know that somehow something's gonna come their way, correction, punishment, and they're just waiting for it. So brainwashing. Whether we're doing it on purpose, with an intent to mold and shape them in a way that we think that they would be successful, or on accident, habits and tendencies that we don't even recognize that are possibly causing damage to our kids. Are we brainwashing our kids? And the answer is no, because brainwashing is changing attitudes and beliefs through those different practices. But we're not changing anything. As parents, we get a clean slate. One day, these kids are gonna paint a masterpiece, but we are the first to paint on their canvas. We're their first teachers, their first mentors, the first ones to teach them right and wrong and what their values are and how to see the world. And no masterpiece was built on accident. I built a shelf in my basement, and I knew exactly what I was gonna use it for, what I was gonna put on it, and I planned everything out. I knew the purpose of the shelves, what size they needed to be. The greater a masterpiece you build, the more intention and planning has to go into it. If we're gonna build our kids up to where they're gonna be happy and successful and a positive member of society, then there has to be a lot of intent involved. I have 4 principles to share with you that I live by when it comes to intentional parenting. And I hope that it brings you encouragement and inspiration and maybe a different perspective. Let's start with the most important. Beware of I am statements. Definitive statements. I am smart. I am dumb. I am ugly. I am an introvert. See, there are 2 different directions that you can go with this. For one, a lot of parents, out of frustrations, all of us are guilty, might say things like that to our kids. What is wrong with you? Why can't you just do this? Are you stupid? A lot of us can do that just out of frustration. But when a kid hears that, they internalize it, they believe it. I'm stupid, I'm an idiot. There are some definitive statements that we use though, that we think are completely innocent. They are observations. When we look at our kids and we go, well, you're an introvert. You're not very good with people. You're a little awkward. Whatever those statements are, we're just trying to observe what we think we see in that kid. But to them, it might become a limiting belief. And instead of trying to grow in that area or be better in that area, they just accept it as an excuse. I've seen a lot of kids with ADHD that they use ADHD as an excuse to disobey or to do wrong instead of just something to overcome. And we can hold our kids back and cause them to stop growing in certain areas because of unintentional statements that we say. I have an older video that's an example of this, and it kind of explains my 3rd daughter and kind of our journey in even understanding this principle to begin with. When my first 2 daughters were growing up, we decided no fits, but the fit was always directed towards us. When Zoe came along, she threw fits, but it wasn't towards us. It was towards her older 2 sisters because she wanted to be a part of the loop. And she would throw a fit to get her way, for them to share with her or spend time with her. And we're like, well, I can't really get on to her for wanting to be a part of what they have going on. And she was starting to get a little mean, starting to hit a little bit. And I don't know what caused my wife to change, but she changed the way she talked to Zoe. So instead of telling her, you're being bad, you're being mean, you need to knock that off, instead of being really forceful with her and being like, you're being bad, she would start telling her, you're my sweet girl. Don't do that. You're my sweet girl. And it changed everything. She wasn't just having attitude issues with, say, her sisters, but it started branching out into other people, other kids. Then she started talking to her saying, oh, did you make a new friend? Is that your friend? And she was really emphasizing making friends and being friendly. And now, everywhere Zoe goes, if you go to the park, she will make a friend. And she will tell you, oh, that's my friend. She might have known her for 5 seconds, but that's my friend. And I think the big deal is the way she sees herself. See, because when you tell a kid, oh, you're bad, quit being mean, then you're putting the idea in the kid's head that you think that they're mean and that they have to stop being what you say they are. To where when you say, oh, you're my sweet girl, don't do that, you're setting an expectation saying, I see you in a good light. Can you live up to how I see you? So instead of her focusing on trying to stop something, like being mean, she's instead focusing on trying to do something, which is being kind. And now she is the sweetest, most considerate daughter I have. Now my other girls, they're very considerate, they're very loving. She gives you words of affirmation like, you can do it, mama. You can do it. It's okay. And I really do think it's because Rachel started treating her differently. Principle number 2, control your spirit. The hardest part of being a parent is not controlling your kids. The hardest part is to control yourself. A man that can control his own spirit is stronger than a man that can take a great city. One of my favorite Bible verses that I apply to children is Proverbs 14:4. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. If you don't have an ox, you are missing out on all the benefits of having the ox in your life. But if it is in your life, you're gonna have to clean the stall. You're gonna have some work to do and some effort and some dirty jobs that you don't wanna be a part of. If you're gonna have kids in your life, you just have to expect that the problems and the messes come along with it. So when it comes to the environment in our home, are we trying to create a comfortable environment for ourselves? Or are we trying to create a home to where the kids can thrive and grow? It's easy to create simple ideas on how life works and then expect our kids to live inside that box of expectations. It's easy to react to situations when things don't go the way we expect them to. It is a lot harder to control our own spirit and examine every purpose and emotion and action and always be asking why. Principle number 3, I tell my kids this all the time. My job is to manage you in such a way that you can manage yourselves. My job is to work myself out of a job. I've said many times that parenting comes in 2 stages. And the first is damage control. Don't stick that in your mouth. Don't hurt yourself. Don't break that. Stop hitting your sister. Share. We're really just trying to avert from all the dangers around them. And then they hit an age to where now we're more concerned with their mental health and their problem solving and their understanding situations. Honestly, those 2 overlap forever, but we can't just always be in damage control mode. And honestly, ever since birth, it is our job to teach and train them to where they don't need us anymore, that they can solve their own problems, that they can self-educate themselves, that they can fight their own battles, that they can be confident and know who they are without needing us to give them affirmation and tell them who they are. So intentional parenting is having a goal in mind of what do you want to build up in your children? Do you want them to be confident, problem solvers, free thinkers, creative? Whatever you want instilled in them, you have to make sure that your actions align up to teach that to them. Now, I know all parenting styles are different, everything overlaps, and I don't know the right way to do this. It is my opinion, though, that a complete authoritarian view of do what I say, when I say, right away, no questions asked, to a certain degree it's good, But on the other end, it doesn't promote confidence. It doesn't promote free thinking. Solving all of their problems for them instead of stepping back and letting them do it. Thinking for them and then telling them what to do instead of allowing them to think through it themselves. Going back to our first principle, intentional parenting is not controlling them, but it is adapting myself for their benefit. So if I'm trying to instill certain principles and beliefs and understandings in them, then I have to adapt myself in the way I respond to situations and how I interact with them in such a way that I can foster and grow those principles and characteristics. I took computer programming when I was in high school, and I learned about a flow chart. If this, then that. If yes, go this way. If no, go that way. And I think that the mind of a child thinks the same way. That their problem-solving skills, when problems arise, what's their first course of action? What's their second course of action? What's their emotions in the situation? And what you focus on is what you gravitate to. So are we having our kids focus on their insecurities and the negative? Or are we having them focus on determination and problem solving? How are we training our kids to think? Last but not least is principle number 4, the golden rule of parenting, to treat others the way you want to be treated. And it is no different when it comes to our kids. We treat our kids the way we would want to be treated. We have to put ourselves in their shoes. If your boss at work or your spouse spoke to you the way you speak to your kids, how would you feel? Would you feel disrespected? Would you feel not heard? Bossed around? I worked in a factory for 10 years and I had an awesome boss, but he came up to me and he would often say, hey, can you do this for me? Do you think you can get this done by this time? He showed me a massive level of respect. And I oftentimes would bust my tail and try to get things done for his sake. And I watched other departments that barked orders like dogs at their employees. And I thought to myself, man, I am so glad I don't work for them. What about our kids? Do we ask of them or do we demand it? Do this, do that. And then do we give them time to get it done? What's taking you so long? I think we should try to understand our kids, to understand their personality and how their mind works. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid. I heard all growing up, why don't you just pay attention? Why are you so scatterbrained? Can't you just focus? Where is your mind at? And it is very easy to get distracted, to lose your train of thought, to get off task. Our kids can be the same way. I'm pretty sure I passed that on to my kids. So to understand them and understand the way their mind works and understand that they're not being disobedient, they're not necessarily being bad, they just got distracted. And also in the same line of thinking with ADHD, people have a need to be heard. The archaic mentality, the kids should be seen and not heard, is ridiculous. Growing up with ADHD, I didn't know when to stop talking. Honestly, as an adult, I still don't know when to stop talking. My mind jumps from this topic to that topic to this topic and that topic, and I want to share all of them with you. And my form of connection with somebody is sharing everything that swirls around in my mind. My wife sent me a TikTok the other day, and it was the 5 love languages of an ADHD person. And one of them is allowing them to info dump on you. It's so true. I had a lot of people that were close to me that called me motor mouth, said I never stopped talking, and I felt like they didn't care. They didn't care who I was. They didn't care what I was interested in. To me, allowing me to share with you is to connect with you. And if you don't care about what I have to say, then you don't care about me. It's how I feel as an adult a lot of times. Kids are no different. They want you to listen to them, listen to their interests, listen to them ramble about stuff that you really don't care about, but they have a need to be heard. People from all over the world and all different types of cultures are possibly going to hear this video. I'm not saying that everything that I said today is completely correct, but what I am saying is that we have to be parenting intentionally with an end goal in mind, and we adapt our own responses and attitudes for the best interest of our kids to raise the next generation to where they can be happy and thrive. Like always, work harder and smarter. Stay diligent. Hey! Hey! Shh!
Daddy.
Will you go play?
You stupid.
No, I did not call you stupid. Go play.
Oh.
Can you go play so I can make a video? Oh.